So by the time you see this video, Tryndamere would have been nerfed or reverted, depending on how you like to see it, and basically his spin cooldown is back to 9 seconds. The reason why Tryndamere got buffed in the first place to make his spin 7-second cooldown was because of the Essence Reaver changes and the fact that he dropped like a 45% win rate for a very long time. So everyone was really lost with him, and Riot needed to do something and buff him. So now they're reverting him, but Essence Reaver is still the same, so we have to find a way to basically get back to where we started. So I have 3 builds ready for you guys to use, and all of them come equipped with 3 rune pages as well that are all ready to use and been tried and tested in Challenger Elo. So the very first build I'd like to introduce you guys to is the Korean Tryndamere build. Judging by its name, you guys can tell that it's rampant in Korea, and that starts with Tiamat, which is always really good item for Tryndamere because you always need a wave clear item really early. So it's also an auto attack reset, so it really helps with trades, really nice. After that, Zerka Grizz, run them down. Attack speed, also really good. Storm Razor, so you can start critting and you can start one-shotting the backline with your spin. And then after that, you have Static Shiv. Reason why you get Static Shiv is because Storm Razor guarantees a crit, and Static Shiv proc will also crit as well. So you get double crit whenever you spin onto someone and then you crit them. It's really nice. After that, you get Rage Blade, because Rage Blade gives you a lot of damage. When you stack it up, you get a lot of AD, you get a lot of AP, and you get a lot of attack speed. And also the fact that this thing already has on-hit damage anyway built into itself, so you're going to be double proccing that. The other thing that Rage Blade gives for Tryndamere is that every time you generate Fury, you generate twice the amount of Fury whenever you auto attack. And also on top of that, whenever you crit, you're supposed to reduce 2 seconds off of your E cooldown, it will reduce 3. So that's what Rage Blade does for Tryndamere. After that, they like to build Mercurial Scimitar. Most of the time it's Mercurials. Sometimes it's also Bork, and Bork makes sense because Korean Tryndamere likes to run Ghost and Celerity, so it makes a lot of sense to boost the Celerity AD bonus by going for Bork as well if, say, you don't need the cleanse, because it only increased your move speed by 1 second by a lot, so you'll have a random burst of move speed, you'll cleanse your stun, and then you'll hit them really hard. So it makes a lot of sense to get Mercurials most of the time if they have any CC on the enemy team. If they have none, you could probably get away with getting Bork, so that's what I see in the op.ggs on the Korean servers. After that, they finish off with an Infinity Edge. Although this is not mandatory, you could also pick up a situational item. Who knows, it could be more of Malmortius if they're full AP, but those are extreme conditions. So one thing to note is that this build has 0 CDR. Also, there's one really important thing to note before I show you guys the runes, is that whenever you proc Storm Razor's passive, you get 20% move speed for 0.7 seconds. So if you can proc it, get that movement speed, just imagine how much celerity will go up by, and then you'll hopefully hit one more time before that buff runs out. So for the Korean Tryndamere rune page, you always want to run Precision into Sorcery, and the reason why you want to run Sorcery secondary is because Celerity gives so much in terms of synergy with the build, because as you guys can tell, Storm Razor actually gives movement speed whenever you crit. Stock standard here in terms of the precision tree, this will never change, always get Last Stand, always get Alacrity. Actually, I don't know, Tenacity is really tempting, but I think it's up to your discretion. For 99% of the time, I think Alacrity. After that, Sorcery, you want to make sure you get Celerity always 100% of the time, but Nimbus Cloak you could change out. Most of the time you want to get Nimbus Cloak because, movement speed's really nice. It goes with Celerity, it goes with your whole kit, so it makes sense. But say if you're really going to struggle in lane against the AP matchup, you want to change it into Nullifying Orb. And say if you want to scale into late game, I've seen some Tryndameres in Korea, they go for Gathering Storm, Celerity. So up to you guys what you guys want to pick. That's your option, but stock standard is to go for Nimbus Cloak and Celerity because it synergizes with each other. Okay, so the next build I want to go over is the classic build, and this build is super expensive. It takes quite a while to ramp up. The fact that once you get Rage Blade, you pretty much beat anyone in a 1v1 as long as they don't kite you. So the main weakness of this build is you get kited really easily until you get 6 items, and that takes forever. 90% of the games in high elo, you will not reach that point. In low elo, if you're smurfing, you'll reach that point really easily in 30 minutes. Most of the time, you will not reach it unless you are in low elo, which the games will last forever. Sure, you'll reach that very easily, but you should be able to close out the game before then if you're playing properly. That's the main weakness of this build, but I've used this build a lot and I really like it as long as you're facing champions that don't kite you. So, Tiamat first, Zerkers, stock standard just like before. It's really cookie cutter. This is a very good setup to start with. After that, you get PD so you can duel, but then the main problem with this is you don't have much AD, so then you don't one-shot the backline. Unlike Storm Razor, you can one-shot the backline with your E. So that's one thing to note. And also you hit a lot harder with Storm Razor, which also gives attack speed, 25% of that. You get 45% here, so you do attack faster, you are stronger in dueling, and you do have a lot more in terms of overtime crits because Storm Razor is just a burst of damage, right? But PD, you get to have more sustained critical strike chance, so depends on what you guys like. After that, you get Eye Edge, so you have a lot of AD now, and you'll be able to start slicing through tanks, so this is really nice. Once you get Rage Blade, you can say goodbye to every single tank in the game, because once you get this item, you stack it up, and then you have Conquer up, you go onto any tank, and then you just melt them. It doesn't matter what they build. At this point, it just doesn't matter at all. But then if you have some lifesteal, say if the tank is really strong and really ahead of you, and you're really behind, you might need to pick up this Ravenous Hydra, and then you can absolutely outduel them because you'll start healing off of them as well. To address our CDR problem, once you get to this point in the game, which you almost will never get to, but say if you do, you go Triforce, and then after that you'll sell Boots and change it into Lucidity. You have 30% CDR. So that is the build, and in terms of runes, you'd most likely want to go this page, but you know what, you can still go for Sorcery second. This page is really good because you have Sudden Impact, which is getting nerfed this patch, so do mind that, it is getting nerfed. So what's shown here is going to be a little bit different. Also the fact that Celerity is also getting a minor nerf, so it's going to 1.5% increased move speed, and then in terms of AD and ability power, it's going to go down to like 6 and 9%, so that's something to note, guys. But also do note that Sudden Impact is getting nerfed, Cheap Shot's getting nerfed, and I think a bunch of other things. Let's see. Scorch is getting nerfed, Airy is getting nerfed, I think also Electrocute. They're all getting nerfed, but you could argue it's not a nerf because they're just reducing the damage but also reducing the cooldown of it, so it could balance out, who knows, more sustained damage, less burst. I think that's the idea behind it anyway. The reason why you get Ravenous Hunter, for those that are curious, is because of how Ravenous Hunter heals off of abilities. You actually heal off a lot since there's on hit from Rage Blade, there's Conqueror, there's also the Tiamat Splash, and then you have your E. So those are all the things that heal you from Ravenous Hunter. I think that is all there is to this build, and then we'll go on to the next one, which is the Fidget Spinner build. It's made famous by Fogged, and this is the build that he's going to go for in the next patch. So I'll go over it real quick. He gets a Vamp Scepter first. Actually, this is a build that I used to use a long time ago as well, so it's very familiar, but it's made some slight adjustments to get that CDR a lot early on, because the old Fidget Spinner build is you go for PD into Eye Edge. You'll swap out your Vamp Scepter for a Blade of the Ruined King. After that you get Black Cleaver, because back then there was no Conqueror, so you get Black Cleaver to Armor Shred because you need it. But now with Conqueror you don't need it because you do true damage anyway, you shred through tanks, so it doesn't matter. So that was back then, but now it's a little bit different because you'll go for Death Stance for that 10% CDR, and then also you have Lucidity 20%, Triforce for that 40%, so you have 40% CDR, and then after that you go for Rage Blade. And then you'll be able to hit really fast, crit a lot. You'll have 95% crit once you have Full Fury with these two Zeal items. So that's the idea, is you spin onto them, you get like crit after crit, and then you spin again. And then once you have full CDR, then you just need to crit like twice and then you can spin. So that's just how it is. And yeah, those are the builds. In terms of rune setup, you have quite a few options. You could actually go all out CDR and just get 45% CDR at the end. Also, Magic Footwear makes it so you scale a lot better. With this rune page, you sacrifice AD at the start, which is very important because AD actually helps your trades a lot early on. Since all you do is spin in, you auto once, twice, maybe even get a crit if you have stacked up Fury at the start. So AD is so much better than attack speed in the early levels, but then later on it scales a lot better, especially with the free 300 gold, and also you get extra move speed, like by 10%. As you guys can see, it's better than the regular boots. So that is one option. But if you want to be stronger early, you have Sorcery secondary, like what I've shown here, or Sudden Impact. So those are the two options that dominate lane early on. So those are your options, and those are the builds that are viable right now. If you go for any other build, you might be trolling. We'll see, because I feel like there aren't really that many options out there at the moment until they change some items, hopefully bring Essence Reaver back, and that'll be really nice. Let me know what you guys think of these builds. If you have one that's even better, let me know as well, but make sure that if you do see a better build, it actually works in high elo. So I'm talking like Diamond 2, Diamond 1, or higher than that. And also be sure to link the op.gg as proof of people actually using it. Anyways, hopefully you guys found this video helpful. Be sure to drop that like if you did, and I'll see you guys all in the next video. Cheers.